Well, hello, everybody. How are you doing? My name is Conor McGilligan. This is One Leeds, and this is the Rumour Mill. What's going on in your world? I've got myself a 1664 here, everybody. It's the end of the week. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, so get yourself one. Join me. Listen, if you're not into your beer, no worries. No problem with that. You're probably healthier than me and the masses. We're back here discussing Leeds United. We're talking about, as you can see on screen there, the starting 11 for the Arsenal game. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding this, what you would be going with, what you wouldn't be going with, and we will get into it in due course when it comes to transfers, this, that, and the other. But I wanted to start off with the Arsenal game in particular. It's Friday. We don't normally do streams at this time, really, but on a Friday in particular, because I know a lot of you are getting home from work, you're seeing your families and all this sort of stuff, so you might not be interested in what's going on. But I thought I'd jump on anyway, because we've not really had that discourse debate and discussion about the game. Yeah, as I've just mentioned to you guys, we'll be getting into the transfer news, which appears to be heating up as well. But let me know your thoughts with the Arsenal game and your score predictions and all that great stuff. Yada, yada, yada. So I can see a lot of the regulars in there. JC's there. Dry went out the window, mate. Dry Jan. I think it went out the window after it did. I think it lasted 12 days. It lasted 12 days, and then I thought, nah. To be fair, I don't think it's that sustainable anyway. Do you know what I mean? I think if you reduce your drinking habits periodically, that's better. As a man who drinks like 2-3 times a week, no joking. But yeah, I think periodically, if you do it in a serious way, like, because I know some people might be struggling with it and all that sort of stuff, and I'm not the person to be getting advice from, but yeah, I think if you reduce it a little bit, that's a better thing. And that's what I've always found anyway. I know I'm never just I don't ever see the point in doing, it sounds good in the moment, you're trying to have a come down from like December, but then you get into January and you're like, hold on, I am just going to teetotal this and then binge. I'm going to binge in Feb, so there's no point. Okay, let's get into it. I've been waiting for this all day, says Jordan. Needed my conflict. Shout out to you, mate. Tow's in the building. And yeah, guys, do us a favor, slap a like on the video, because I don't know if there's many of you in the building, so let me know. Deadline day will be here before Connor. Chris is here. Great timing. I only just looked on YouTube. How's it going, bud? Cyberforce Self is in here as well. Mike Cart, Yaboa, Sam, Moza, Lofts, etc. A lot of the regulars as well. Carting Bros, great content, Connor. Good to see you in here, Cart. Michael Ramsden as well. Where's the camera? Sorry? Okay. We now need to have 15 mil. We know they have at least 35 million. Yeah, I think you're talking about Leeds, or you could be talking about another club, mate, of what we'll get into in a second. Chris says, instead of doing dry Jan, I'm giving up on the booze for 1 week a month. That's a good idea, mate. I think that's more. You got to think about what's more sustainable. He's doing dry Jan, unless you're thinking about going like teetotal. He's doing it. Does it make a lot of sense? Don't know if it is. Adam says, about time, Connor, where you been? Just to be honest, mate, I did a show last night, and I just thought to myself, like, is there any point in like continuously doing like show after show after show on the same thing? I need news as well, guys. I can't just do this. I can't just do this without getting news, because it is just completely pointless. So, right, okay, let's get into your thoughts ahead of the Arsenal game. Anyway, Reese says, evening one and all. Hope you're all good, Con. I'm all good, mate. Hey, Con, happy Friday, mate. You too as well. Misery, good to find the catch alive as well. Look, I can't get into all the comments. Yet. But guys, as I say, donations do help the channel. Your comments will be read out first. I know there's a stream of comments that we normally get, but donations will be read out first, and members, of course. So let's get into the weekend's game as well. Arsenal. Now, with Farke's words the other day, it was quite vague on Gabby Goodmanson. Now, I think it's probably quite unlikely that we see Gabby before the weekend. I think it's more likely, and if you listen to Farke's comments, it's, I do wonder sometimes, mind game-wise, wouldn't this be the perfect mind game to just say to Arsenal, he'll be back for Forest, then just throw him in there. And he's making, Farke's words were, he's making really good progress, Gabby Goodmanson. So let's say he is in, but let's say we take him out of just this starting 11 anyway and do probably the thing which is likely. So we'll stick Justin out there. And then what we'll do is we'll put Seb in there as well. So I think this is what I would go with. It's kind of difficult at the minute to change this around, because the options in this Leeds side are a little bit thinner. this Arsenal side's going to be very good, isn't it? Saliba and Timber, I'm not sure on what their fitness is. I know they were left out of their Champions League squad the other night, but does that mean they're just resting them up for the weekend? We'll have to wait and see. But from a Leeds perspective, I would be going with this. They seem worried. They seem really worried, and maybe it's because they're winless in 3. We know how good they are. But you know what I would say, everybody? If Forest can make it difficult for them, why can't we? Why can't we? Why can't we make this an awful game for them? Absolutely make this disgusting, kill any momentum, get to 20 minutes. And this is kind of what we did beforehand. I thought Farke's got to learn from what he did beforehand in this game, because this was a game of which I thought Farke's management got really punched in the mouth. We started with Joel Piroe up top. We were trying to build up through the lines against Arsenal. They pressed us into oblivion and we got away with it really for about 30 minutes. But we got to that like 30, 34-minute mark and you thought, this is, I don't know how we've got away with this so far. They were getting through us and all this sort of stuff. They were recovering the ball high. And I'm just hoping that Farke's learned from that and you're going to see a different Leeds in this game. And obviously with the formation change, you're hoping that we see that. But it is interesting when it's a 3-5-1-1 because periodically as well, you are seeing Leeds move into still a possession-laden side, I believe. I think that's what Farke wants to do. And I still think in games, Leeds are looking a little bit more maybe structurally sound when it comes to playing out from the backs. We've got that extra centre-back cover. But I think we've got to be a little bit careful in this game. So I think they will I think they're going to press us in the back line. And if I'm Arteta, I'm just saying go express yourself. But it might be a game of which Arsenal may be a little bit nervy. You never know. They might feel a little bit nervy in a game like this because I still feel that this is a bad game for any team who's out of form to go into, especially at Ellen Road with how we've turned it around. We've got barely any losses on our remit. Have we got any losses since we've changed formation? I don't think we have. Might have the odd one, but I actually don't think we have. So Leeds are structurally really decent at this moment in time. So it's whether or not Leeds can sort of adapt again into this Arsenal game, not play out from the back, but you'll be able to play out from the back a little bit more because I think you get that almost leverage to do that at home in comparison to away and up against an away crowd and the pressures of that. But I just think with Leeds, they have to be a little bit smart in this one. Bypass the press, hit Dominic Calvert-Lewin a little bit more. But I do look at this game again, and obviously Lucas Mecha is probably going to be out of this one. I think this team against the bigger teams, when we've gone to a 2 up top at home, Liverpool, Chelsea, I think when you look at those 2 games, Leeds with the 2 up top just helps the team. I think DCL looks miles better in a 2 up top. And yeah, obviously he's only got 1 goal in 5, hasn't he? If you to bring it back down, because I know there's a lot of people saying, oh, he's got 9 goals in 21, which is brilliant, especially for a newly promoted side. But I think when we've sort of transitioned into a little bit more of I think it has been a bit more possession-y the last sort of month or so. And I do think Leeds United have moved away a little bit from that 2 up top, hence why we're going out for a number 9. So it'll be interesting to see how this one works. I think there's a style of which can be competitive and potentially get something out of this game. I think there's a style of which maybe loses this game. But what I want to see from Leeds United is intensity. From moment one, intensity. And I understand you have to manage the game. I just don't want Farke to be cautious because I think if you're cautious in a game like this, and I think even when you split the Liverpool game up, I think definitely when you look at that last Arsenal game when they just battered us in the transition, you have to learn from that. You have to learn from that. And Leeds have got to be strong in certain areas of the pitch, but they've got to play the right passes at the right times, get the ball into the channels, really make Arsenal work, and obviously be profitable on set pieces and defend set pieces well. We were an absolute abomination at the Emirates when it came to defending set pieces. We were all over the shop and they just dominated us and it was easy. We've got to be a little bit more structurally sound. And I think that intensity's got to be there because if Leeds want to get something out of this, then they've got to be intense. If we sit back, and because I think Forest had that when they played them last time. I think there was still a threat going forward, Forest. I think if we sit there like ducks and wait for Arsenal and think, oh, we're going to low block it and all this sort of stuff, it's not going to get the crowd on side, obviously, because you're just giving up possession like we've seen before this season. But ultimately, it's going to allow Arsenal to get up the pitch. We've seen this before. We saw this against Everton in the second half when Farke had evidently told them to sit back and defend their area, defend the box. That was a managerial instruction because Leeds completely dropped and their intensity dropped and Everton were able to really dictate proceedings. Leeds have to be instructed from the top down in this game to go for Arsenal, to really press their back line and see what happens. see what happens. You know, we're all expecting to lose this game, but maybe we can get something from this. I would be starting Facundo Buonanotte in there. I think you've got enough defensive cover to be able to put Facundo Buonanotte in there. And I think he's ready now. You know, they were talking about match fitness and getting him up to speed. I like what I've seen. I think the little deft touches in that Everton game. I still don't think he's a complete player. I don't think so. I think there's probably a question a little bit about his, once again, like I said with Okafor, his physical readiness for the Premier League, albeit he's played in the Premier League. He's not the quickest of players, but I do think there's a little bit of chance creation there. And it doesn't just have to be for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. It can be for the wing backs. And I think he's dangerous. I do think he's dangerous. So maybe that combination with Aronson will be good as well. I liked his harrying in the Everton game. He looked like a hard worker, which Farke will like. And I just ultimately think if that back three can keep control of Arsenal's centre forward, that's going to be really important here. I've liked Justin's 1v1 defending. He's going to have to be on it for this game. Bogle's really, really going to have to help out Bornau. And also, when you look at this game as well, there's going to have to be central midfield cover for Bornau as well, because he's just simply not quick enough on the turn. So I don't mind our chances for this. Arsenal are coming out of it, coming into it a little bit out of form as well. So I'm kind of looking forward to this one. I'm not expecting much, but with Leeds United, when I've not expected much recently, that's where normally they prove me wrong. Let's see what you guys are saying in the comment section below. Oh, Abdul Rahman, again, thank you so much, man. It really, really helps. And Abdul Rahman has always been a big supporter of the channel. Thank you so much, sir. Hey, brother, just a quick hello and say we do need a striker now that Nemecha is injured and can't risk going without an additional player till the end of the season. Leeds. Well, Abdul Rahman, we'll get onto your comment, mate. And thank you so much for your donation again, mate. And we will get into that, of course. Jay says we have to go at them and put pressures on early door. We do that, and we could get. Mate, I completely agree. We can get after this lot. They are, I think, going to be the champions of this country. I do think they'll win it, but ultimately, they were not comfortable at Forest. They weren't comfortable, and I do think they're a brilliant team. They've got more points on the road than any other team in the Premier League. They're strong. They're good from set pieces. They've got a lot of things which are checked off. They've got pace out wide. They're very, very strong in the midfield. They've got excellent delivery. So Leeds have to be 12 out of 10 in this game to get anything. But if they are at that stage and we can keep the first 20, 25 minutes and we can get into it, start creating a few chances, push Arsenal back a little bit, you could get something from this game. If you just sit back, we're going to get battered. And if you've also got to mix it up. There's got to be a little bit of variance in your play. You've got to bypass a press because they will press you. We saw that in the first game when they were all over us like a hot rash. You've got to be able to know when to play the ball to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. DCL's going to have to win us a lot of free kicks to get us up the pitch and win territory. And a lot to consider. But if we're at them and the crowd gets on top of it, it's a 3 o'clock, so it's a little bit more difficult. But if we're at them, you never know. You just never ever know. And I've kind of got to that point with this Leeds United side now where I'm sick of writing them off, because every time I write them off, they prove me wrong. Chris says, I know that you aren't Longstaff's biggest fan, Con, but his physicality is a must for you. So what I'll say about Longstaff, Chris, is it's his calmness, his assurance on the ball. He gives the ball away too much, mate. He just gives the ball away too much. What I want from Jorgen's, we'll get into that in a bit. But what I want from a midfielder is to be able to be technically efficient on the ball, to be able to know where the pass is going, because you have to be like that at Premier League level, not to figure out where the pass is going when you're on the ball, because teams are too pressy in the midfield, especially when you're looking at Zubimendi, Rice, and Odegaard. You cannot not know where the ball is going before you get it. I think Longstaff figures out where the ball is going next when he's had a first touch. He's not quick enough on the ball for me. The problem is their recovery rate is so good, Arsenal, and their pressing is so good. They run the most in the Premier League. I think we're up there, but they run the most in the Premier League. They'll go for days. They've got rotations in that midfield. You can't have Longstaff in there. For me, you can't have Longstaff in there. You've got to have players who take better care of the ball. Not just, and it's not, he was never bought for that, in my opinion. He was bought to harry, to hustle, to press, for energy, for endeavour. That's what I see with Sean Longstaff. But I think the other side of the game, for me anyway, mate, he's nowhere near it. Okay, let's see. Rad says, Con, keen to come on the channel like Tash and JJ. Who's Tash and JJ, mate? I don't know who those people are. I don't know who they are. Right, let's see what you guys are saying. So Abdul Rahman, let's get on to, so I mean, we'll get off a corner and then shut up shop 100%. Jay as well says, just hope we don't give away any silly corners or set pieces. And that's kind of another reason, Jay, where I do look at someone like Longstaff and think, nah, I think he just gives away daft fouls sometimes in and around the box. But yeah, I mean, our set piece have got to be on point as well, 100%. But yeah, completely agree with what you're saying. Completely agree with what you're saying. And Leeds have got to be smart here. We've got to be smart with our individual duels. But I think that added layer of protection that we get with a back three and some defensive players in there. I think if you start Gruev, what we're basically doing is setting up to defend. And I know a lot of you guys think Gruev's underrated. That's fine. But we are setting up to just defend at that point. And I think at Ellen Road, we've got to go for. I understand it to a certain degree at Everton, to a certain level. But I think at home, Leeds have got to go for it. We've got to go for it. And we've got to really try, press on the action, get that intensity to a level of which is going to be right up in their faces and bully them. Let's get in their faces. Let's make them uncomfortable. You know, and the crowd gets behind that. You got to think as well, everybody. If we sit back in a low block, we're quite passive. The crowd aren't going to feed off that. We've got to get at them. We get picked off. You get picked off. It is what it is. You know, we're not, a lot of us aren't expecting much from this game. So, Sam says, my missus tries giving me you-know-what every time you come on, Connor, but I'll never stop watching you daily. Sam, I cannot tell you, mate, the amount of people who tell me that their missus get sick of me. There's probably loads of you watching now whose girlfriends or wives hear my voice more than they hear their husbands or boyfriends. I get told that so many times you would not believe. I think it's probably the most thing I get told. Shout out to James, who says, James, thank you so much, mate. Love listening to your shows, mate. Greetings from Dubai. There we go. International one Leeds. Okay, let's move on, shall we? And we'll get on to some of the transfer bits. Thanks as well, mate, for that. We'll move on from the, we're just sick of it, aren't we? We're all sick of this saga, man. Right. Stan Larsen. Whoa. Okay, so what do we know? This is Graham Smith's, a little bit of detail from him this morning. One thing that they've not changed in the past 24 hours is Leeds' stance on Strand Larsen. They remain keen. They're still open to doing a deal, yet insist they will not budge from their valuation. Club sources have reiterated that Strand Larsen is regarded as a long-term bit of recruitment. Guys, this is why you need to come to one Leeds. How many times have I told you lot that? Do you know what I mean? Just the football brain I have. No, but I'm joking. But I've said multiple times from day dot, this isn't a staying up strategy. When you look at Jorgen Strand Larsen and the development and the ceiling, this is a long-term play from Leeds United. It is not a short-term thing of which it's like, well, let's go get him. Let's spend loads of money and panic. Strand Larsen is something of which Leeds are definitely looking at as a future-proof. Leeds are also keen to, this is what I like. Leeds are also still open to the idea of strengthening at fullback if the right opportunity presents itself. But Daniel Farke has been pretty clear that he does not want to bloat his squad. So in his estimation, they can be picky as the deadline draws near. So to me, and that's Graham saying that suggests that there's going to be activity at Leeds. There is going to be activity. Do I think they've got an idea of someone else to go for other than Strand Larsen? Yeah, I do. And look, these things change, don't they? And have I been given any sort of indication that there'll be a replacement? No. I just think that they know that centre forward is something that they need. Lucas Metra, as Abdul Rahman has just said there, is out. Lucas Metra has had niggles. He's struggled to get back to full fitness. I think that's why a lot of the time he has been on the bench as well. You know, give credit to Farke on that point. I think he's not just going to throw him back in there. I think it's sometimes taking him a while to get back to fitness. He was out for 4 games with a hamstring injury. And it's not Lucas's fault. Do you know what I mean? He's barely played this amount of minutes. You know, this reliance at this level. So, and then you fall to that is Buenanotte, Nonso, Okafor, and probably Brendan Aronson, who are not centre forwards. And I am literally putting all of those players before Joel Perri. And we'll get onto that in just a second. But genuinely, I believe that's the hierarchy at the minute. I think Daniel Farke would rather change formation than go to a front two, which probably would aid Joel Perri. And I don't think that's Farke's fault. But that's the stance on it right now. But I do think Leeds will go for an attacker. I think they'd be mental not to. And am I panicking? No, not at all. If Leeds weren't to do anything else, would I sit here and just be like, "Wow, they had to do it. They had to do it"? No. And you guys have seen me come on here before and being so frustrated by this football club and not doing the right thing and the obvious thing, because this football club, at points, has tried to be the smartest football club in the room, and then they end up with egg on their face. But I do look at it now and think, at this moment in time, if they were to just have Buenanotte, the squad is to remain as it is, I think Leeds stay up. You know, we welcome Jacoby back, we welcome a fully fit Goodmanson back. And then you've got to pray that Dominic Calvert-Lewin doesn't get injured, which on the face of things is unlikely. So he probably will get injured. But if he doesn't get injured, do I think this Leeds United 11 is strong enough to stay up? Yes. Yes, 100%. So what I think Jurgen Strand Larsen is, as Graham's attested to there, is it's a long-term play. It is a market opportunity. And I think that's what it is right now. I think the problem is Wolves are living in la-la land. And I understand why they're doing it. And the latest reports coming out from Wolves is that they will not go lower than 45 million quid. There is also conversations now about Jean-Philippe Mateta, who is the pawn in this play, because if Crystal Palace get rid of him, bring the capital in, then they'll go for Jurgen Strand Larsen. There is conversations now that Mateta will be going out to AC Milan, and that's quite advanced. Then you think to yourself, well, Evan Gassan coming in from Villa, 2 million loan fee to Crystal Palace will be the play. But now Evan Gassan is being courted by Juventus. So this is all moving. So this could literally be a scenario on the last day where Forest miss out on Mateta, and we know they've been interested in Strand Larsen, and Palace ultimately restructure their bid. Restructure their bid. We knew yesterday they were talking about 45 plus 5. Apparently, according to some sources, certain sources, Strand Larsen wants to go to Leeds. There's other sources saying, as we say, I don't know how credible these are. Sources saying he wants to go to Leeds. Other sources suggesting that the structure of the deal and the deal in general wasn't favoured by a lot of the Palace board. Some of them liked it, some of them didn't, because of Strand Larsen's record this season. And there's also pretty much formulaically across the board, most articles suggesting that Leeds United will not go above 40. So what could Leeds do, theoretically? Well, there could be an obligation, right? There could be an obligation. So Leeds could loan him in right now, and there could be an obligation for Leeds to give him 45 million quid in the summer. From the Wolverhampton Wanderers standpoint, apparently, if it's anything less than 45, they won't sell him. I think that is a load of rubbish. And I think that's a load of rubbish. I understand they play with a hard bargaining tool, Wolves, and they have done with big transfers, and they've got the most for their money. You got to think about Mendes, who is the super agent who's involved in these deals, who always makes Wolves get the best of the book, which is great, but it means that he gets an undeniable cut of that money. That's what he is. He's a super agent. Ronaldo's agents gets involved with anything, will take a massive cut of that. So he wants the biggest fee for that. So if Wolves are saying it's 45 million quid or 45 million quid, that's because it's probably been driven by George Mendes wanting a big piece of that pie as well. So Wolves want obviously a big part of that as well. But if you're taking off their portion from 45 million quid, who knows what that is? So you got to think about that. But for Wolves and for the noises out of Wolves to say, they will not take anything less than 45 million quid and they're happy to keep Strand Larsen, that's a lot of rubbish, because his value will depreciate. Rob Edwards doesn't play him. He doesn't play him. You know what I mean? And he will sporadically play him. He's been on the bench numerous times this season. They've favoured going with Hwang and Toluwa Roca there. Will they go to maybe a different front two going forward? Will they go to, how, I don't know how it'll work, but Strand Larsen's value will naturally depreciate. And there's another striker who we're going to talk about in a second, whose value will depreciate if he's sat on the bench. And that's what happens in football. And they're going to go down. So there could be 15, 20 million shaved off that value. So whatever Wolves say about keeping hold of Jurgen Strand Larsen, they've lost money on him in the summer because they should have accepted that bid from Newcastle. And they're in the January window now. And ideally, they need to sell him because his stock's high. His stock is high right now. If they wait until the summer, you can shave probably, in my opinion, 35 million quid off what that Newcastle bid was in the summer, which is crazy. So whatever comes out of Wolves, that is a bargaining tool. And them basically saying, well, we're not offering anything less because they want to get the optimum value for their asset. So that's kind of where we are with Jorgen Strand Larsen at the minute. I think the important thing here is Leeds are still open to the idea of strengthening at fullback if the opportunity presents itself. That's massive. That's massive. Also, do I look like I'm from like Louisiana and I go on one of those boats and just miss the crocodile? Do you know what I mean? And I'm going in between the anacondas in the reefs. Yeah, that's right. Getting back to my shack. Just feel the hat, the shirt, the beer. Just call me Cletus. But yeah, so look, we're kind of looking at that at the minute, but I'm happy that the fullback region has been looked into. There is a player, and he's gone to Norwich now, who I would have looked at as like a deputy to Goodmanson. It would have been Harry Amass. I think Harry Amass would have been a lovely little addition. I think he's going to be a top player. He's going to be a Premier League player very, very soon. He was recalled back from Scum from Sheffield Wednesday, was Sheffield Wednesday's best player, which isn't like a mean feat at this moment in time, but he ran that left-hand side so well, virtually by himself at such a young age. He will be happy to come into the Premier League and be given minutes at the Premier League if you to believe reports. But he's gone to Norwich now. He'd have been one that had been perfect. So he'd have come in as a rotation option, and that's what Leeds have got to sell, right? They've got to sell the fact that if a lone player did come in, which Leeds are probably going to do, I think, and then maybe look ahead for a permanent sort of backup left wing back in the summer. But if Leeds were to do that, it would have to be, they have to guarantee them some bits and bats. But that's what negotiation's all about. And that's what the window's all about. And, you got to be in it to win it. Right. Okay. See what you guys are saying as well in the section. Connor's sporting a mullet, mate. Sported this mullet for a bit of time now. It's not grown. Look. Wait. Can we do the... There we go. There we go. See, this show isn't just about rumors. It's not just about Arsenal chat. It's about talking hairstyles. You know what I mean? Talking hairstyles, all this sort of stuff. It's great. It's great content. Lisa's cannot waste 45 on him. Criminal. Should have moved on days ago. LTD says, hi, Connor. I just got back into Leeds and had a kebab. Good lad. Can't wait for the Arsenal game first. And last time, we may be able to get something out of them. Definitely. That's why I took a break on. Jay says, I would love to see a signed JSL and L left wing back cover before Monday night, but I think we will sign is the check to pay the quarterly electric. It's very Leeds, in it, Jay. It is PTSD, mate. It is. Simon says, Connor, if not Strand Larsen, who would you go for? Is that something I'd do for a future video? I think they might lean on Farker a bit. Make of that what you will. But yeah, might lean on him a little bit. And it's not to say Farker will pick it, but I think they've leaned on him a lot when it's maybe come to a certain division, and it wouldn't surprise me if they leaned on him again. To be honest with you, I think there is a Farker imprint with some of these signings in terms of where they played. You look at Gruev, you look at Stack, you look at others. But now it wouldn't surprise me if we were to attack a certain division, and that certain division has good value for money. So maybe, who knows? That's kind of where I see it going anyway, because I think there's been a blueprint. When I've done the rumour mill and the rumour wrap, there has always been a blueprint that it feels like Leeds kind of go when it's like affordability wise. The Bundesliga is brilliant for affordability and quality of player. So it would not surprise me whatsoever if that was maybe a backup, Tanaka being another one. So our last just says, are you fantastically well? Oh, this is a good one, Paul. I went back. I just said something back to the journalist, mate. Was it a cream or Ekrem, whatever he's called? I just went back and said, what did I say to him? He said, Burnley hold firm on Jadon Anthony. Everton, Fulham and Leeds have shown interest. The Turf Moor star valued at 21 to 25 million quid. That's staggering in itself. So I just tweeted back quite simply. Can you see that? Absolute waffle. And my replies got more likes than the initial tweet. So, nah, nothing in that, mate. 21 to 25 million quid for a player who is not consistent, and Daniel Farker wouldn't have him in his starting 11 anyway when he was here. No chance. I'd be stunned. Be absolutely stunned. Okay, should we get into the latest news anyway when it comes to this guy? So for some reason, we'll get into Perri. For some reason, it wouldn't show Besiktas on the data pull through. No idea why. And we've got that for another one as well coming up. So Graham Smith tweeted out not long ago, and there is a bit more detail on this as well, but Graham tweeted out, Leeds United rejected an approach for Lucas Perri. Right. Context. On the channel for 3 years, we've said on the channel that when the stock is high in an individual, you've got to strip everything back, strip back what the fans are saying and all this sort of stuff, and you've got to be ruthless. Take away that sentiment that we're all a good group, where, we're all this great mentality-wise and all this sort of stuff. You have got to sell when the stock is high on a certain individual if you deem it, if you deem it sufficient and you deem it, this player isn't going to give much more. That's kind of how you got to look at it. Lucas Perri, Leeds United have rejected a bid from Besiktas. So, an approach, probably not a bid yet, but as Graham's, worded it out, it's an approach which, if they were given encouragement, would turn into a bid. So if we just take a step back and have a look at this, kind of the context is he's been displaced by a 35-year-old rotation / experienced keeper in Caldalo, who I think looks better than him. I think his passing is miles better. I think he completed a ridiculous amount of, I think it was something like of his attempted long-range passing. And someone might be able to correct me in the comment section below, or if I got this right, but it might have been LUFC data, but I saw it earlier on. He got 11 out of 13 accurate passes when it came to long-term distribution against Everton. That Perri cannot do that. He cannot do that. It is, and that's why he kind of reverts to throwing. And I believe passing out from the back is such an essential part of the game right now. And I think if you're actually looking at Darlow in comparison to Perri, I think Perri looks like an older goalkeeper than what Darlow does. And that's not talking about the image. That's talking about how I think Darlow is quicker off his line. I think he's sharper. I think his distribution's better. I think his handling's better. And I don't think there's much between the shot stopping. So, and how many mistakes really do you get from Carl Darlow? I can only think of one, and that's probably that Sheffield Wednesday one that he let in. So, over the time he's been here. So, I just would hope that there is not this consensus and understanding at Leeds that, we've just brought Perri in and he's got so much potential and he's going to improve. He's 28. He's had the sample size now. We've got enough of a sample size to all make an assumption when it comes to a goalkeeper. There's not going to be some drastic improvement. I think sometimes with Leeds, there has been this thing, and I've spoken about it before, where once again, we think we're the smartest people in the room. Oh, there's a bit of development there. He's going to turn into this. We're going to get more value from him in X, Y, and Z. And I always reference Harrison and Melier in these conversations when we had massive bids and Leeds were like, no, obviously not. They're going to be worth more than that, or they're going to give more to Leeds United. Terrible decisions. So I just hope, I put a tweet out there. I've said to you guys, it's absolutely fine getting a transfer wrong. Fine getting a transfer wrong. But you've got to cut your losses quickly. Cut your losses. Thank you so much. Not quite worked out. Let's move on. And we've not been good at that. We hold on to a player. We'll develop him. We'll do this. Do that. Now, that's a bit of the backlog. The context is we don't know what the bid is. We don't know what the bid is. The bid could have been 5 million quid, or the approach, the conversation, because it's not been a bid yet. The conversation could have been, right, Leeds, we'll give you 5 million quid. 5 million quid, that's all you're having. So that's why, unless we actually get told what Besiktas were willing to spend on Lucas Perri, you can't go too hard on it. Objectively, you look at it and you think, if you can cut your losses with him and get a bit of money in, even if it's just a little bit of a loss, which doesn't look great on the accounts, of course. But even if objectively you can get a bit of cash in for him, how big is his value going to get to now? Is it going to depreciate because he's going to be on the bench for Caldalo? Doesn't look great, does it? Doesn't look great. And then we get into the amortization chat of how long he's at Leeds and how long, his contract, we can get a transfer value in maybe next season because his contract goes sort of, you amortize it by 2.2 million per year. So obviously they can put a reduced value in. It's not going to be a bad look on our book. They might have just gone for him now, Lucas Perri, and put like a 6 million quid bid in and really took the mick. But I just hope from a Leeds United standpoint, if they were to get offered a decent bid for Lucas Perri, they wouldn't just turn around and go, no, nah, he's going to be a top player. He's going to be a top keeper. I mean, I come on here to give my opinion. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. I was right with the last goalkeeper for about 4 years. I just, not for me. Not for me. And I was buzzing when we brought him in. Genuinely. And I hope I'm wrong. With this. I've been wrong multiple times before, just not about keepers. I just think with keepers, you can tell immediately. I remember having a convo with Brownie after that game in Dublin. In Ireland, and we had a chat about it immediately. And that was the first conversation point we had. I said, nah. And he went, yeah, I agree. You can just, it's just not right. It's not right. There's too many parts of the game where you go, ooh. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out in the sort of detail about it. Now, what I thought was quite interesting as well, just having a quick look at this bit as well, is it's kind of a bit of a Joel Piroe scenario in terms of what we've heard from his camp and what we've heard from Joel in terms of being in the Premier League and how excited they are. And it kind of works both ways as well. You can't just say, oh, well, if we go for these players, they're going to be attracted by the Premier League. Then they don't want to leave the Premier League, guys. That's the whole thing. If you've got Lucas Perri, who's come over here and is maybe a lifelong objective is to get to the Premier League, which a lot of footballers are, especially South Americans, are they then within 3 or 4 months just going to turn around and at the first hurdle, the first bit of adversity, going to turn around and go, no, it's all right, then I'll go to a Turkish club. You know what, the seventh, eighth standard in Europe, lower than the French league where he was playing before for Lyon. He said his situation is less secure than what it was, and now Besiktas could offer him a transfer opportunity. Whether he wants to take it remains to be seen. The Brazilian appears happy in Leeds, particularly if comments from his agent or anything to go by. He spoke in November. We're happy with Lucas' progress. He quickly became an idol in France, playing for Lyon, and now he's in the best league in the world. Yada, yada. I remember that when we talked about Lucas, no one knew him. Today he's in the Premier League. He's not playing for Leeds, but he's in the Premier League. This is what I mean. It's massive being in the Prem. When I talked to Streveza, talked about Streveza, I did the same thing today. We have 3 players who undoubtedly will reach the top. Obviously, they're not talking about Leeds. Not a lot of Leeds has been mentioned there. It is about the Premier League, playing in England, doing all this sort of stuff. So context has to be applied there, of course. Yeah. Was going to do a video on it, but yeah, Stefan Ortega, Finley, he's available right now, available for loan as well. City have put out there that they think it could be a loan. They're happy to go across several different conversations. 32 years of age. I think 32 is relatively young for a goalkeeper. I think if you get someone like Stefan Ortega, you can still have Stefan Ortega for the next 2 or 3 years. I don't think there's going to be, if you wanted to sign him as well permanently, don't think that would be a lot of money right now for Man City. Yeah, 100%, mate. 100%. It's a really good shout. Connor, what are your thoughts on JSL at the minute? What are my thoughts on JSL at the minute? My thoughts on JSL are, I don't know how far I want. You guys all know I've been pretty hot on him. I've been pretty hot on JSL. How far am I going to go into this, though, in terms of actually wanting, are we going to wait until sort of 4 or 5 p.m. and then get told he's got a Palace or he's got a Forest and all this sort of stuff? I'm willing to remain there and Leeds be active in the negotiation and still be there, but we're not going to get that done, in my opinion. Now, as we are on the 30th of Jan, Leeds don't work weekends as well. That's something you got to bear in mind. It's very rare that we get transfers done on a weekend, but Yeah, I would be really, really surprised if we got Jorgen Strand Larsen done. So we're just kind of there. I think there's probably more likelihood Forest even get him over us. Palace are there. You know, there's conversations about them restructuring the deal, and they've not gone yet, and they're trying to work things out. I just kind of see us as in the background. Do you know what I mean? It's like, there's two lads with two girls at the front, and they're having a great time and all this sort of stuff in the cinema, and you're just at the back kind of waiting for him to recognize you. Do you know what I mean? Oh, I am back here. I am back here. I'll take you to the cinema. We'll just be a bit of a shittier one in terms of price. So yeah, I just hope in the background there's more going on. And because I think a striker is important. So if they're working on a striker in the background and lining that up, just being there with Jorgen Strand Larsen, you've got to think as well, if Strand Larsen wants to come to Leeds, Jorgen Strand Larsen wants to know that he's priority number one. So if Leeds actively let people in negotiations know that they are moving on, then Jorgen Strand Larsen might not get the best feel out of that. So we've got to be careful with that as well. So it's a very, very sensitive subject, but we want to be there. We want to be there because Leeds clearly see it as a long-term option. PRM says, my worries wanted a 9, so why is it only JSL? I hope it's not. Really, really hope it's not, mate. And I don't think it will be. It's a bit daft. Bit daft if that's the case. Brett says, completely agree. Dal over Perri any day of the week, 10 times on a Sunday. Yeah, definitely, mate. The bid was €10. Is that what it was? Is that what it was? Ian says, I've just jumped in. Bonjour, Connor, and everyone. Our Leeds going elsewhere. I hope so. Last I heard, Palace walked away from the £50 million deal. Yeah, something to bear in mind as well with the whole Perri chat as well is they have just sold, from memory, I'm pretty sure it's Tignes. I'm sure they've sold Rafa Silva. That might be in the final negotiations now. I'm sure it's Tignes, Rafa Silva, and Tammy Abraham. Obviously, we know Tammy Abraham's gone to Villa. That's around about 35 million euros they'll have there. So them coming in for Perri today probably makes a bit of sense because they've got a bit of capital now. So I don't think it'll be as low as people think. I think, consider it, they'll have a bit of capital now to flash around. So that might be a negotiation that goes back and forth. Lucas Perri to Besiktas. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Okay, let's move on. Let's move on. I'll just leave this here. Oh. I don't really know I feel like I've said my bit on it. It's annoying. I don't know what he's doing. Yeah. I don't really know what he's doing, but he wants to. If he wants to stay, be there, fight for his place, that's fine, and all that sort of stuff. It feels like no matter. I just don't know why Leeds aren't chatting with him in the background. I just don't get why we're not having that conversation with him in the background. It doesn't feel like that's what we're doing. I know Farke's come out in his press conference and said he kind of wants to keep everybody around. I guess it would be a little bit of a different thought process if he's saying that, and then in the background they're saying to Joel Piroe, you need to pack your bags, mate, and find another club. I know you're under contract, but just to let you know, you're not going to be playing under me. I feel like Farke is probably the type of manager to say to Joel Piroe, work hard and you will get back in. I will give you my Frankfurter. Joking. But do you know what I mean? Stuff like that. That's how I kind of look at it when it comes to Piroe. I feel like Farke will turn around and say to him, just keep working hard and you'll get back in. Or you'll be given a chance in the cup games, which is what he is. He's a cup player now. He's not a Premier League player. So it is frustrating. It's massively frustrating, and it's not his fault. But it is his fault. What am I on about? It is his fault because what I meant by that is it's not his fault that he's not a Premier League player, but it's his fault for not recognising. Forest, my God. That's why I love the transfer window. It's good for a live stream, to be fair. I'm just going to move on for a Piroe set. This is just, man. I basically had a video set up for this. Forest exploring deal to sign Stefan Ortega. Talks an hour away with Man City. More teams are keen on him. Forest now pushing on. They're just ruthless, man. They are absolutely ruthless, Forest. They just are. Like, since they've been in the Prem, they are just they're militant, aren't they? They're absolutely militant when it comes to transfers. Even like the position that they're in and them going for Mateta and then bringing in like Stefan Ortega, like that is if they can get the best out of service wise from Mateta, and they've got players in the round, haven't they, like Dan Ndoye, Amari Hutchinson, Morgan Gibbs White, Elliot Anderson, who probably would facilitate, I think anyway, Mateta a little bit better than what he's got at Palace right now. But that'd be a brilliant signing for him. That'd be a brilliant signing for him. Stefan Ortega. Already got Matt Sells. Already got Matt Sells. And I think to us, it's like we've got Perri, who's not going to play. We've got Darlow, and they've got obviously Sells, and they're looking at Ortega. I know they were looking at Jose Sarr for second option the other day. Just frustrating. Just frustrating. But they're just ruthless. Forest are ruthless when it comes to transfers since they've been in the Premier League. So I think they're getting Davide Fratesi as well, aren't they? That's another one they're looking at. So yeah, I think the Piroe thing is a bit frustrating. We've kind of looked at it and we've all had this conversation. I don't think he's going to be getting minutes in the Premier League. He's not a Premier League player. I just don't know where he thinks his future is. And this is kind of like the irritating thing where if Leeds haven't had the combo with him in the background, that would annoy me a little bit, but we'll never know. We'll never know. Farke just strikes me as the type of guy who's like, keep trying and I will, you will get to a certain point. So thoughts on the Amura links? Are these real? What link? Someone link me Amura. Mohamed Amura we're talking about here. See, guys, this is why I enjoy doing this, because I'm going to type his name in and see where the links have come from here. Amore LUFC. I'm sure he's supposed to go to West Ham. So a look. No, there's not that many on Amora. Can't see anything on him. There's one tweet about it. Very different though. Very different to JSL. Completely different. Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll have to wait and see how that happens. But yeah, guys, if you want to just have a quick look at him, this is Mohamed Amora. We've spoken about him on the channel before. I just didn't know if something had come out. Yeah, a little bit more agile, a little bit more mobile, very different striker to Jorgen Strand Larsen. So probably a little bit more of the 3-5-1-1 mold, I would suggest. It's not a 3-5-2 sort of player, in my opinion. More of the Okafors, more of the Nontos, more of the Aronsons, just in terms of his buzz. Yeah, interesting. I'm not seeing that anywhere. Wacko. Oh, okay. Okay, fair. They do get quite a bit right though, don't they? They do get quite a bit right sometimes. I think a lot of it comes off there. So yeah. Darcy says, if you're Piroe, you're thinking JSL isn't coming and Mecha and DCL are each only moments away from a lengthy injury spell. Yeah, you can think like that, Darcy, but he's not going to be playing. I don't think he'd play. And as well, if I'm looking at Jorgen Strand Larsen, isn't that more damning on Piroe? If I'm Piroe, I'm looking at that going, God, they really don't want me here, do they? They really don't want me here. But yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, JSL isn't coming in. DCL and Mecha are each moments away from injury. There'd have to be proper collateral damage, in my opinion, for him to start. He's not starting in a front two with one of those. It's not quick enough. Just not quick enough. Connor, what did you think of Piroe when he played against Derby? I thought he was all right. Yeah, mate, I thought he was all right. Look, I think I think Piroe, even at championship level, has to be in a certain system. It's not a popular thing to say. I think he has to be in a heavy possession, dominated system with quick players either side of him. That's what he's had his entire career. So not just at Leeds. So I think that's what he needs to have. So I think there's a certain specific style for him, which is Ipswich, but he refuses to go. And I think if he wanted to go to Ipswich, he will be a Premier League player in the next 4 or 5 months. So it's bizarre. It's strange. Strange. Rangers, look, opportunity to play in Europe, opportunity to play at Ibrox, 49ers link. I don't know where he thinks he is, but it is. I do see it as frustrating. I'll be honest with you. Yeah. But I thought he was all right. He was all right against Derby, but it was just a Peru performance, wasn't it? But it just doesn't really matter, does it, with Joel? Because he's just not. We can talk about him against Derby. We're talking about he's a cup player now for me. He's a cup player. That's what he is. He'll play against. I think he'll if he's here for the next however many months, he'll play in the cup. His fifth choice, says Chris, in that position. How much more evidence does he? I mean, we said it in the summer, didn't we? He's just not. He's not quick enough. Technically, he's good enough for the Premier League, but he's not quick enough. How can he be a second striker? And I said he'd probably work well in as a second striker, but how quick is he on the knockdown? In reality, there was Derby players pacing him. Do you know what I mean? Centre backs pacing him. There was one ball that went through the middle and he's trying to battle to get through, and there's Derby players pacing him. He's just not sharp enough. He's not quick enough, agile, mobile enough. The Premier League's too quick, too athletic for him. So I like Willock. We like Peru, but you can't just make it being technically good enough at the top level. So I think he's just probably hanging on. But as a club, I just don't understand why that's not moved quicker. But I wouldn't like where I'm at is I'm not like I did a table predictor not long ago. And I had Leeds finishing in 13th. Like, but that was with the current squad. What you got to think is Buenanotte is a really good signing. And as long as you can keep the nucleus fit, is it a risk? Yeah, of course it's a risk. But we've been Leeds United fans for how many years? We always know that we're risky with stuff like that. So yeah, it just feels like there's like that added security, isn't there? There's that added security of if you go out and get some of the preferences that you need. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. George says, I think he's been harshly treated, mate. Fair enough, pal. It's your opinion. He's just not good enough. Like, scoring 19 goals in the championship in arguably the best championship side we've ever seen is an achievement, but it's not as it doesn't mean you should get a chance automatically in the Premier League. That sentiment, especially when you actually look at his attributes and you think, is this going to acclimatise? Like we've seen enough evidence already. Seen enough evidence of him in the Premier League for me. What about Sterling? Nah, mate. Nah, not for me. Not the profile we need. You got Dan James. You got Willie Nyonso. You got no Okafor to provide exactly what Sterling provides you with. Right. I'm going to leave it there. I will see you all tomorrow for the watch along. We are back, baby, at 2 p.m. Come